Hey, it's Stephen Semple with the Empire Builders podcast. We're doing something a little different this week. We've given Dave the day off, and I've got a really special guest with me, Zach Oliva. He's the co founder of the law firm Oliva Gibbs in Texas. They're an energy law firm. And you guys have really you've done something special in terms of what you've grown to. Like how many lawyers are you now, Zach?
Think, probably close to 60 attorneys across 6 offices in the US. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
You always know you've grown to a size when it's like, I think it's like 60.
Yeah, well, we're always looking for rock stars, and so I know that there's probably some offers that went out this week, not sure what, the status of those are and things, so we're blessed with a really great team.
How long have you guys been around for now? Like, when was the firm established? How many years ago now?
2013, actually, so
2013.
12 years? Yeah,
Yes, that's phenomenal. So in 12 years, it's grown from yourself and Brad
yeah.
to basically being now, 60 odd lawyers and being in that magic.
Yeah, yeah, well, we started the business with another partner who has since retired.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah,
there
yeah,
was three
but,
of you in
I
the
think I
beginning.
was 26 years old. Um, I was kinda reflecting on that the other day. I think I was, like, 26, which is, uh I was pretty dumb then, and so I didn't know how stupid of an idea. I also didn't have kids, which makes the decision a little bit different, you know?
Tell me about how all of this started, because the thing that's also interesting is the area you've gone after, oil and gas. Look, it's not the glamorous space. It would be a bit of an easy one to overlook and not get excited about. You guys have built this amazing business. And as we've worked together, I've learned more and more about how it's actually a far more interesting and innovative industry than people give it credit for. But how did it all get started?
Well, I was in law school in Ohio, where I grew up, and Ohio got like just destroyed by the Great Recession. And so I got out of law school around 2011 and there were no jobs. I was reading the paper and I noticed that in the paper they kept talking about this thing called the Utica Shale and the Marcellus Shale, which they were calling it the most prolific natural gas discovery ever in the country. It was under Ohio, so under the land, right? Under the state of Ohio and New York and parts of Pennsylvania and West Virginia. And no law firms in Ohio at that time had an oil and gas practice. And so I was going to these firms saying, "Hey, I think there's going to be something here. I would love to come work for you, even for free, because I really think that this is going to be a big industry in Ohio. And by the way, there are no big industries in Ohio anymore. Like, if anything's going to work, it's going to be this one." And none of them were interested in, a kid fresh out of law school working for free, doing something that they had no idea how it worked, which, I don't blame them at all. And I had a professor who was a really bright guy, and he was really knowledgeable about the country. He was previously like an advisor, I think, to the Clinton administration, like super connected in DC. And he was like, "Look, if you really want to do this, I don't know if you know this, but Houston, Texas is the capital of oil and gas and country. And so you need to go there." And so I picked up the phone and I called about 50 law firms and I found one in Houston that was looking for one Ohio oil and gas attorney. And I flew down, met the owner of that firm at a barbecue joint. We had lunch. I flew back to Ohio and I had an offer. And so I moved down Thanksgiving Day, November 2011, and worked at that firm for about a year and a half. And then in 2013, started this firm. Didn't really figure out how to grow the business until 2020, 2021. And so, really most of the growth I think has been since 2020 and 2021.
Right. So it was basically you graduated from law school and you had read about this opportunity in Ohio because of this
Yeah.
big natural gas reserve that was just sitting there, which meant, it was going to be Ohio law and whatnot that applied to all of that.
Mhm.
And basically try to find a place that saw this opportunity as well. And you had to go to Texas to find that because that's basically the capital of the oil and gas industry in the US. And managed to convince somebody to say, we should hire this guy So you were then essentially taking care of the Ohio section of the practice at that firm.
Yeah, so there were a few other attorneys there, I think one or two others who had been hired before me to work on Ohio work. And then within a month, I was back in Ohio recruiting like 15 to 20 more attorneys to work at this firm to come down and work there. And, that firm only had one client. And so when natural gas prices in 2012 went from $14 an MCF to like $2 an MCF, that client
Ouch.
obviously was, not in the best financial shape. And so when we started this firm, the first thing that we decided to do was just diversify. So now we've got, 6 offices. I think we work with clients in probably half a dozen states. I'm licensed in 3 states, Ohio, Texas, and New Mexico. Most of the attorneys here are licensed in multiple states and are like specialists in oil and gas law. And a lot of times that carries over to other states. And so you kind of have to be multi-jurisdictional to be an expert at this type of law. It's because you'll work with a client in Louisiana and their next asset might be in Texas, or their next asset might be in Mississippi or North Dakota or New Mexico or whatever. And so if you want to grow with your clients, you have to have that multi-jurisdictional characteristic.
So how did you and Brad meet and get started in this?
Oh man, he was our first hire. He came up to me at a talk that I was giving in 2012, I think. And yeah, we had a conversation and I did not think that we could afford to hire anybody at that point. And so it was like, I don't know if you've ever been there before, but it's like I didn't think we could afford to hire anybody. And I was like, well, we should probably do this. And it's, that's how we met. And I was thinking the other day that that's actually been my longest marriage. So,
So for background, because I love this about Brad. So if I remember correctly, he was in a punk rock band when he was a kid. He did a stint in Japan.
not only when he was a kid, he was in a punk rock band like recently, like I think in the last decade too.
Oh, is that right? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. He's got songs on Spotify. He was taught in English in Japan.
Yeah.
Super interesting guy.
And what a geek when it comes to like weird facts around law. Now, was he always sort of that, or is that something that developed as you guys were growing the practice?
That's a great question. I think, he has such a real interest in oil and gas law. And it's almost like the energy behind that is almost like infectious. Like he has a document that is basically a running list of every oil and gas case ever and his comments on it.
Which is crazy, right?
It's got to be like thousands of pages by now. Yeah. Yeah, no, he's a great oil and gas attorney, and it's really interesting to him.
Yeah. So you've gone through this growth. Like, let's face it, having 60 attorneys, period, puts you in the top echelon of law firms
Mm.
in the country. Not many firms make it to that. Certainly, there's not going to be many in the niche that you're in. So, you've built this super successful firm, and it started from this seeing this opportunity, going after the opportunity, growing in that space. But what was the turning point where all of a sudden it went from being a few people to something where you really looked at it and went, wow, I think we can actually grow this into this bigger multi-office thing? Was there a moment where that happened, or did it just kind of chug along?
Yeah, there was definitely one moment that happened, and
Stay tuned. We're going to wrap up this story and tell you how to apply this lesson to your business right after this.
Hey, Rick, I'm glad we got out again.
Yeah,
What's going on?
my digital advertising's got more expensive and it doesn't seem to be working as well.
I see.
Nice drive, by the way.
So?
I don't know how I'm going to keep growing. I feel like I'm going sideways, flattening out.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you speak to Steven?
You mean this podcast host?
Yep.
Not yet.
Do you like going sideways?
No, I want to be growing.
Well,
Starter session.
yep.
5 iron?
Sure. Oh, and you can book your free starter session on this podcast website.
Your turn, Dave.
Let's pick up our story where we left off, and trust me, you haven't missed a thing.
Was there a moment where that happened, or did it just kind of chug along?
Yeah, there was definitely one moment that happened, and it only took a fraction of a second. It was just when we decided to do this. When we made the decision that we were going to be the best oil and gas law firm in the country, however long it took to make that decision is how long it took. It was just a fraction of time, right? And then that decision changed everything. And I think it was during COVID. I mean, I don't know if it was like this for everybody. My experience during COVID is that it was a pretty reflective time, and I had downtime, a lot of solo time. And during that time, just was really thinking about like what is holding us back, what is possible, what are the limiting beliefs that are kind of holding us back, and things like that. And so it was just that wanting to do more and just making the decision to grow it purposefully was really important.
So, what do you think really changed? Was it because you didn't change your focus?
Right.
And knowing you, you're a driven person is gonna happen. What was the change that happened when you had this? Because it's kinda interesting when you think about it. You had this opportunity to step back from the business, like, a little bit, from the standpoint that, generally speaking, things were different and we weren't interacting as
Right.
much, and as you said, there's this little bit more reflective time. What's the thing? Was it just that you wanted to become the best, or what is it that really changed in that time?
I started to be a little bit more aware of my own limitations in that I started to kind of look at the relationship between time and hard work. And I was like, well, there's not really a relationship between hard work and success, because if that was true, my parents would have been billionaires, right? And so would I, because I really worked hard for the first, I don't know, half of the firm's life up until COVID. I was really kind of working myself and wearing myself down. And so I just kind of was like, there's got to be a different way to do this where maybe it's like our decision making process or the hiring process or the strategy or whatever. And so we decided to bring in some people who are really good at growing businesses to advise us on what to do. And that turned out to be a really great plan.
Right. So basically, you looked at it and said, we're great lawyers, but what we're not great at is growing a law firm into a big law firm. We need help on that front.
Yeah. I wanted to do something. I think I was thinking about the types of people that we wanted to work here, that I wanted to work with every day. So I had, during this time, I had some personal events going on. My dad was really sick from Alzheimer's, and my best friend was really sick from stage 4 cancer.
Oh,
And so I was very mindful of the people that I wanted to be around, because I was like, these are the most important people in the world to me. And so if I'm going to spend any time with anybody else, it's got to be meaningful time to me, because otherwise, what am I doing? I'm just wasting my time on this earth, you know? And so I started thinking about the types of people that I wanted to work with on a day to day basis. And I mean, you spend most of your waking hours at work if you're a human, right? In this society, you spend most of your waking hours at work. It's kind of where you hang out, right?
it is kind of, yeah.
And so I started thinking about the types of people that I wanted to hang out with on a day to day basis. And I knew that the business that we had at that point was not attracting those types of people. And so I said,
Interesting.
what kind of business would we have to build where we would attract the types of people that I would want to hang out with? You know, people who are creative, people who take their job seriously, are professional, they want to be the best at what they do. Like, those are the people that inspire me, and I can get inspired by working with those people. And so how do we build a business that attracts people like that?
This is so interesting.
So it's kind of like I was looking for more meaning, you know?
This is so
Because that would
interesting.
be best case scenario for me, is if I could have meaning in my personal life, meaning in my professional life. I mean, in my opinion, that's like a life well lived, right?
That is a life well lived. But here's what's so interesting about it. Most people, if they're sitting there saying, okay, I'm going to 10x my business, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to become the largest and whatnot, the first place they go to is how I'm going to attract who are the customers I need to attract. That's almost
Mhm.
always where everybody goes.
Oh.
you put this model on its ear and said, who are the people I want to work with? And I know in your heart, the belief was, if I work with these people and attract these people, we're going to attract the customers, right?
That's a great
I
point,
know.
and I did not think about that at all. I had never even realized that until this conversation. I probably should have thought about that. It
So
may
it
have
is.
been a bit of business owner malpractice. I just kind of figured, well, and actually, I I'll add a little bit of nuance to that. A lot of our clients I had deep personal relationships with and still do.
Yeah, right.
Relationships are really important to me, and I really wanted just to get them the best quality of service that we could get them. And so that makes it so much easier to bring new relationships into the firm. There's like no question that they're going to be handled well.
Right. They're gonna be handled the way you want them handled.
And it removes so much friction because there is a little bit of friction. I remember when we had, in the early days of the firm, when some of the folks that we had here maybe aren't what we today would call A players, there was a little bit of friction where like you got to find work to feed everyone, right? And to
Uh-huh.
have the firm continue. And you know that maybe the lawyers could be a little bit more responsive or whatever. Like it creates a little bit of friction during the sales process
Sure.
because you're like, I don't know, like I'm building a relationship with this person. They might not have a great experience, etc. And so, and it's wonderful for me because on a daily basis, I get to learn from people who are excellent at what they do.
Yeah.
You know, we've created a system here where I get to learn all the time, which is really what I love to do. And I get to learn from people who are really passionate about what they do, which is awesome because it is just more fun for me.
Well, and here's the interesting thing. A lot of businesses that I've looked at, over the 4 years that I've been doing this podcast, a lot of them have started not with, "Oh, I'm building $1 billion business." Most don't start that way. Most start with either there's this thing they wanna do that's gonna make people's lives better or whatnot. It's just interesting to me that you started with the people. That's a very interesting perspective because also what you recognized is if you start with the people and the people treat the customer the way we want the customer to treat, the money will come. Like, yes, you
Yeah.
want to make money. Yes, you want it to be financially successful, but instead of going after the money, you went after this with the belief that the money will come if we do these things right. We do these things
Right.
right. The money's not the goal. The money is an outcome of doing these
Well, it's a
things.
it's a byproduct of doing these. It's the
Byproduct of
natural byproduct of
yes.
doing these other things. Yeah.
But I also
Yeah.
find it interesting, this whole idea of how COVID gave you this mental space for thinking about this, because both you and I are in the strategic coach, and I don't know whether you know this story from Dan Sullivan. So Dan Sullivan created the strategic coach program, and the origin of that was Dan had a different consulting practice. He had this different consulting practice that was did a little bit in business, did a lot in government, and ran into a bunch of problems where he like literally was on the verge of bankruptcy. And what he and Babs did, his wife, decided we're going to go away for 2 weeks. We're going to disconnect. Like think about it. The world is crumbling around you and your response
Mhm.
is I'm going to go on a vacation. And when they were on the vacation, they dreamt up the idea of strategic coach. And they came back from vacation and implemented that idea and built this unbelievably successful business. And I think sometimes in these moments of crisis, we go into the firefighting mode because that's what we feel like we need to do. And yet it's amazing how many times I've heard these stories of when somebody took that time and said, no, actually, I'm going to step back and get a little bit reflective. That what they end up coming back with is that positive life changing moment that they're able to implement. Look, life is long. There's going to be another crisis happen. Life is full of them. And I think we need to think about them, but we need to take this reflective time. It's really powerful.
So I think probably for the 5 years before COVID, I would take these trips and it would be called like a think week or weekend or whatever. And I would get a flip phone and I would go to like a cabin in rural
Well, you
Texas.
just dated yourself there. You get a flip phone.
Yeah, I still have a flip phone. I have a flip phone. I use a flip phone every weekend. I've been using a flip phone every weekend for like 7 years.
Oh, no, no.
What? I was enjoying this episode. Don't worry. Part 2's coming next week.
It better.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Please share us, subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and leave us a big, fat, juicy 5-star rating and review at Apple Podcasts. And if you'd like to schedule your own 90-minute empire building session, you can do it at empirebuildingprogram.com.